All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video podcast episode, I sit down with Tyler Lekas and Jason Postill of the MHCI group. They are commercial real estate syndicators who own 697 units right now in Arkansas. Mobile home park investors nationwide. They specialize in turning around mismanaged properties, heavy value add, and they're really contributing to helping the affordable housing crisis in America right now. What we talk about in this podcast is a variety of different things that apply to anyone in the mobile home park space. We talk about syndication structures, how they got into the syndicating world, raised their money and bought their first deal, and now scaled up to multiple parks, totaling of 697 units. We talked about what their underwriting metrics are as far as what are their hurdles as far as cash and cash returns, internal rate of return, what type of returns do they offer their investors, how they set up their syndication structure, different ways that they source deals, and a lot of unique insights into operations of heavy value add deals and how they're able to infill properties much cheaper than other people are doing in the industry, aside from a whole variety of different things. These guys are extremely knowledgeable, very experienced in the industry, and their goal is to get to 10,000 units by 2028. This episode, like always, is brought to you by MHPvalue.com and CREDealAccelerator.com. Hope you guys enjoy this podcast. All right, guys, we are live on the podcast. So, Tyler, Jason, thank you guys for coming on. So, I guess first question I want to ask both of you, before getting into the mobile home park space, what was the overall background of both of you, both professionally and just personal lifestyle? Tyler, I'll let you go first and Jason after.
Perfect. Yeah, my name is Tyler Lekas, and again, one of the co-founders here over at MHCI Group. And one of my background was actually in finance, and I worked as an institutional and retail financial advisor, basically just a fancy way of saying I was a stockbroker. Nice. And I didn't throw any midgets though or anything like that.
No midgets and no midgets and hookers in the office, huh?
Yeah, exactly. No penny stocks or God, what do they call that stuff? Quaaludes for me.
Yeah, so, Quaaludes.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's where I started my career. I was working 120 hours a week, and nice. My dad was like, "Hey, I know you hate your life and hate your job, and I'm going to send you over." He sent me over an article basically about mobile home parks and investing, and he said it kind of tongue in cheek, but he's like, "These real estate guys are idiots." And he said you can run cash flows pretty well, and so he said you should look into the asset class. So I started looking into it, and bought my first park in 2018. And Jason and I met shortly after that. So it's kind of cool.
And with that, so where were you living at the time when you were working in finances? And then the first park I know was in Titusville, Florida, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so I was working in. So I went to school in Dallas, graduated, found a job actually in Fort Worth, then moved to got poached and moved to another job actually in Dallas, nice. Dallas proper, quit that job and then did some worked for a fund up in Portland and then quit that job and then started doing this mobile home park thing. So I really took a couple of steps down. I went from wearing suspenders and a two-tone shirt and I was swearing, I was smelling mahogany dealing with metal boxes. So
because I guess that was like late 90s, early 2000s Texas finance, like kind of vibes. So
yeah. So it was, but in all seriousness, I mean, the mobile home park thing and run your own show is much better life than Wall Street these days. Wall Street just will grind you up and spit you out. So that's pretty much it.
Definitely. Jason. And then Jason, I know you were in the, I guess, commercial real estate brokerage world. Was that at all tied to mobile home parks, or was it totally separate? And what was your kind of story there?
No, separate. So, I mean, my background, whatever it's worth, out of college, I finished. I went and played professional baseball for about 5 years. So I minor leagues about 5 years, ended up on the DL, had a newborn, and I'm just kind of on my way out. So I started thinking, what am I going to do? Right. And I actually heard one of my last pro camps, a big leaguer say he didn't make his millions in playing baseball. He made it owning 1,000 units in South Detroit, apartments. Okay. Right. And I was like, oh, bingo. That's good direction. Always gravitated towards it. Didn't really have family in the business or, anything of that nature. But yeah, shortly after that my last season, I was getting licensed and didn't really know what direction. Right. I thought, I want to own apartments, but I didn't know where to start. Thought real estate license was away. Obviously, for your listeners, that's not, if you want to be an investor, most investors don't want the license, right? For the stability and that. But to answer your question, got in residential, found out that was not it. I mean, I did well, but I felt like I was just running around open doors, and nothing against that business. It's a great business, but I was like, this isn't it. And then ended up working for some larger outfits, Marcus Middle Chap, and specialized more in the apartment brokerage. Okay. And then I went independent, as Tyler said. I mean, being independent, is, you can't beat it, right? You're not. You run your own schedule, et cetera. And so I did go independent, but it was more focused to try to get on the other side, right? I'm finding these deals for everybody else, and just started putting the pieces together, right? Didn't really read a whole lot until I was about 26, and then just started self-educating, and then had an independent brokerage, but wanted to focus on again the investing side, and that's where I took a little pivot into mobile home parks. And still have boutique brokerage with some just general commercial, couple agents, but it's not the focus, and it was never geared around mobile home parks. That's just, we buy and hold. So around 2018 is where, in 2019 met Tyler and got our tail kicked for a couple years, and we got our first deal done. But
nice. So then where are both of you guys based? Are you guys local to the Arkansas, where I know you guys own a lot of properties, or is it you guys both separate, different areas?
Yeah, so I moved here right when we bought our first portfolio. I moved here because we knew it was going to be a super heavy turn. Yeah. And with that heavy turn, we had to pay a boatload out in pref because our investors expected a lot, because we were literally cutting our teeth. Jason's first deal and my second deal. So we had to pay a boatload out, so we saved all that money by hiring a manager. I kind of took the manager role, and Jason did everything else: bookkeeping, answering the phone calls, system, the whole 9 yards. So we knew we needed boots on the ground, because there was going to be some heavy, contractors that'll rob you blind, right? Yeah. I always say, if a contractor's not beating his old lady, he's smoking meth. So, and those guys need money for both those things, either getting out of jail or meth. Yeah. So, it's I kind of manage that side of it. And I fought Golden Gloves growing up, and I'm probably a little more ornery. And I can't I can't work a computer to save my life. So Jason just helped me out with that. So.
Okay. And then, Jason, where are you located at?
I'm in New Smyrna Beach, actually. So
nice, dude. I'm in Tampa, Florida. So we're close.
Yeah, we're close. Yeah. And I've been here, and I come, to Arkansas every once in a while. I'll probably get more in the way than anything, but I'm back end, more systems, and bookkeeping didn't do that too well, but we got, we're getting those pieces together. So it's
All right. So what I want to talk about now is kind of, how did you guys lead into forming the MHCI group, forming your partnership, and then deciding, hey, we're going to go out, let's go buy mobile home parks together? It sounds like it was easy for you guys to establish, hey, all right, Jason's going to do more of the technical side of things, Tyler's going to be boots on the ground, and it seems it kind of morphed that way. But in the very beginning, how did you guys first meet? And then how'd the conversation start with, hey man, I'm good at this, you're good at that, maybe we should come together and start to raise money and buy parks? What'd that kind of look like? And like something I get stuck on myself is, how do you even find partnerships like that getting into the industry? Because I know, Jason, you were probably already doing deals, whether that's MH or not. And then Tyler, you already own the mobile home park. And I do know a little bit about the story because I listened to the podcast. I know Jason was cold calling you on like the day before Christmas or something. So tell me a little bit about that story, then transitioning to the partnership.
Yeah, Jason, you want to tell that? You want me to go in and
tell your side? It's so that was it. I mean, being on the brokerage side, I hadn't known anything, right, other than so I went independent. It might have been even like my second week really going independent. Nobody knew the name, still don't. But it's like cold call, had a list, and just wanted to learn the MH side, and thought that was a more safer investment, in my opinion. And I had to park in Titusville, and on the East Coast, I was just calling through, just as brokers do, right? Cold call. And he literally says, I said, hey, this is Jason, JP Capital. And he's like, who the fuck is JP Capital? And I literally hung up just in my face. And I didn't get out even why I was calling. And that always eats at me, right? So as a broker, so I called him right back. Nice. I think it was Thanksgiving Day, like day before Thanksgiving. Or he knows, I think, more that side. But got out what I wanted to say. And we got to meet, right? And then at that point, it was tough finding partners, right? Because a lot of guys want to do this part-time. Some have to, right? Because you don't just jump in these and just start grabbing cash. So it's really hard to find guys that align with you. And then, my value was more, I could source deals. And we didn't know each other's strengths or anything yet, but we knew once we started getting our tail kicked for almost 2 years in Florida, we're like, damn, this guy's still sticking in here. I can understand how guys flame out, right? And then so when we're going trying to get under contract here in Florida, at least, we were just getting crushed by some of these larger groups, cash, quick closing, and we just kept going, and there's always some overlap, obviously, right? But him having the experience as it was, and then I did have some investors lined up on the side that I was trying to put some. So it really just after that time was like, damn, okay, this guy works his ass off over here. I'm hanging in there. I'm gonna get to the finish line here, no matter what. If it's 5 more years, and then we finally took that first 68 unit down, and Tyler, you want to elaborate on that? Maybe.
So how'd that, like, all right, you cold call him, right? And then how'd like kind of the relationship develop from there? Because you were just some random a-hole cold caller broker, another, hey, you want to sell your park type thing. So Tyler, from your point of view, when he called you back the second time, was that when you guys started talking? Did you help bring an offer through his Titusville park, or how'd you guys actually become from random cold caller to actual friendship to eventually business partners?
So what ended up happening was for all your listeners out there, I do drink beer. Nice. So I was having a couple beers, and I was with some of my buddies, and I'll never forget, I was sitting on my couch at my place in Portland. That's where I was living at the time. Okay. And I picked up the phone, and he's like, "Oh, Jason from JP Capital." I was like, "Yeah, who the fuck is this?" And and Jason was like, "Well, I'd like to, put an offer on your park." And I said, "Well, hey, what's your number?" He's like, $2 million. I was like, "That's what we bought the park for 6 months ago." And I was like, I knew asset prices had gone up since then, because this was 2020. And I was like, "Sharpen your pencil." Click. He calls me back, and since I started, I started like my whole career was sales and finance, right? I made 29,000 phone calls my first year in the business. That's how I kind of cut my teeth. And so I was like, I like this guy, because I used to say the same thing. I used to say, "Oh, sorry, we got disconnected," And I'm going to say what I want to say here. I'm going to get that out, because nobody's going to stop me from that, So so he called me back, and I was like, "Yeah, I like that. This guy's got some stones." So then he said, "Hey, I got some capital." And I said, "Oh, I need capital," because I'd spent every dollar I had on the Titusville property. Yep. And so we met for some coffee and kind of started talking about it. And then I could I'm a little more verbose, Jason's a little quieter, but he's got that moxie. He's got that killer in him. Yeah. And so I like that, because he hung around on deals with me, and you just don't find that with very many guys out there, to just hang around and get, this deal got killed and that deal got killed, and we couldn't finance this deal, and we didn't have enough liquidity on this deal, and this deal fell. Again, we got killed for years. Then we found that 68 unit portfolio, and really how it kind of developed was I got to see his resilience, and then his work ethic, and then as well, we had the same investing philosophy. What I mean by that is he had big goals, right? We both wanted to get to 10,000 units, still do. That's our company goal, 10,000 units by 2028. And then as well, he wants to buy, hold, refi, right? Yep. He doesn't want to sell. We're not about quick hitting IRRs. We think these are legacy assets, and mobile home parks are just going to get more valuable, because it's the only asset class that has a diminishing supply. So that's always been our macro view. And then everything else, kind of our work ethic and philosophy, is kind of funneled into a successful partnership. And I kind of stay out of his hair, and he stays out of mine. And again, there's a lot of overlap, because we're trying to basically build a startup. But but we've got a lot different strengths, and a lot different personalities, which is kind of meshed into really good.
Nice. And then for buying that first deal together, what made you guys kind of hone in on Arkansas? Was that a specific target market? There was one in Little Rock, right? It was like the Arch Estates, Opal Estates, Broadway Estates, right?
It was actually Pulaski Estates and Pulaski Estates 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and we actually honed in on that for just one reason. And Jason, you can jump in here too. But I had a call with Frank Rolfe, and I basically, Frank's always on. He'll call you like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, Guy's wild. And he ended up calling me, and I said, "Hey, look, we're getting our teeth kicked in Florida." I said, "We're looking in the Southeast here. Like, where would you go if you were like a first time operator? Like, how would you make this work?" And he said, "I hate the whole Southeast." I'm like, "Well, thanks a lot, Frank. That doesn't really help me, you know."
Nice. Yeah.
And I said, "But like, if you didn't hate the Southeast, where would you go?" He's like, "Well, Little Rock has no real institutional ownership, and I think there's stuff that still has some meat on the bone, right? Versus going to a place like Indianapolis or Miami or wherever, right?" And so we started looking around. A broker buddy of mine had just started at Marcus and Millichap, and he found us that 68 unit deal, and we went full bore. And then Jason hammered the phones for the next year, basically. And we called all the owners around us because there was a bunch of mobile home parks in the area. We just started gobbling them up. Yeah. So,
and that first deal, as far as like the capital raise and coming up with the structure of like, hey, here's the returns we're going to pay. Because you kind of alluded to that earlier. You got to pay higher prefs because you're new kids on the block. You don't have a huge track record or anything like that.
Yeah.
So where did most of the capital come from, and how did that capital raise with the capital partner? How'd you find them? And then how'd you kind of hone in on the actual terms you're going to offer as far as like what they're investing, their returns are going to look like? Because I know someone from the outside, if you're not already doing commercial deals, which in this case Jason already was, and you already bought a mobile home park, so you guys had some experience going into this, but it's hard for people to hone in like, well, what kind of structure should I do? What kind of return should I be offering for this capital? And how do I even raise the money in the first place? So what did that look like for you guys?
Yeah, Jason, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, every deal we up to about the first probably 6 deals, I'd say.
Yeah.
It was a different structure, right? It wasn't a typical like now we're at a different one. We're doing a 506C, 70-30 split, 10 pref. Well, then in 2020, we were saying, okay, an 8% preferred return. We knew that the deal was going to be a little bit juicier, but it was a big project too, right? Because we were able to infill that, bring in new homes and still pay out a 9. I think the first year was like a 9.3% term. Yeah. And the way we structured, just to get back to your question there on, I had it was a banker contact that for a couple of years, he was all over the place with like, oh, let's do duplex development, or hey, senior house, residential assisted living, and just honestly just wearing me out, like on the brokerage side, right? I was like, oh my God, that's why I typically don't work buyers, but it was different. It was an investor who was like, hey, understood piece of equity, and I was all new to it, right? I didn't know, hey, do I carve out 10%, 5%, 30%? I didn't really even have the structure in mind. And again, being my first deal, I just didn't. You don't know what you don't know. So we had another CPA that brought in, and then Tyler, something we put in the rest, and it was more of a percentage preferred return, and then a refi. We always keep the investors in the deal. That's been one common thing, but it was I think that one, Tyler, 18 months. I think we pulled out the 100% of capital and then some to pay everybody's money back, and then it was just kind of baby steps towards the again the 70-30 split, and I know that changes a number of ways too, but
and those first two guys, the CPA and the other banker guy that ended up putting the capital into the deal, and did you guys invest any of your own money too, I assume?
Yeah, so Jason and I put in $235,000 of our own money into that deal. It was a $535,000 raise. We raised an additional $125,000 in CapEx. So we put in 235, banker put in 300, and then the CPA put in 125.
Cool. And those relationships, that was already from just general business, people you've already been talking with, like you mentioned. He's been bouncing all over the place on different things he wants to buy, and the CPA is probably working with them already.
Yeah, the CPA was interested in a long time, and she was invested in real estate prior. She actually did a 1031 with us shortly after that. Nice. So we have kind of a unique structure with that. Ticks are a little weird, but so she actually ended up doing some more business with us because she had never seen in her time an 18-month refi where she had 100% of the capital back, and she didn't have to sign on a PG, and she got a 9.3% return while her money was sitting there and rates were at 0. Basically in 2020.
So she's now, you guys have her tight. You guys are probably buying more and more deals since then, I'd assume.
Yeah. So she was just like, this is incredible. And like, and it's wild. You run into these real estate guys. We did a couple other co-GPs after that. And you run into these guys who do real estate full time, and they're like, they're constantly bitching at you about the returns. And I'm like, guys, we're generating like 500 bips above all, like every investment out there. I mean, we crushed the S&P year over year by multiple hundreds of percent. Because Coca-Cola is not giving you your money back in 18 months or 24 months or 36 months. I mean, you start running those IRR calculations, like, well, Coca-Cola is safer. And frankly, I would disagree with you on that. Like, if somebody came up to me and said that Coca-Cola is safer, I'd say you have more control over a mobile home park, and it's the only form of affordable housing that's still out there. I think your risk-adjusted returns are actually better on mobile home parks than on buying Coca-Cola. And somebody can take me to the mat on that. We can have a debate about that next time.
Yeah. So like that first deal, was it a heavy value add? What was kind of the initial game plan going into? I know you could probably talk about this for an hour and a half, but like the quick, dirty overview, was it like a park-owned home, rehab, infill, or did you have to bring in new homes, or were there like sewer issues you had to fix? What was kind of the overall value add to the deal?
Yeah, I mean, it was a combination of everything. Tyler, you can hop in with the infill, but really the first thing, I mean, guys that hear or guys that are in apartments, they hear, online pay, they're like, what? Like, they don't even think that's a thing to try to convert that, right? I mean, even in our due diligence, because a lot of our tenants didn't even have bank accounts, right?
And they're collecting cash. Collecting cash and money order.
So even before the infill, just getting during due diligence, there was no bank statements, there was no proof of any of this. The seller's like, oh, I'm just taking cash, and so we said, okay, well, we need to see this. When is this collected? He's like, oh, usually the 3rd to the 6th. And Tyler and I literally flew in there, sat in the manager's
and watched him collect the rent.
Literally watched the cash. It was crazy. And then so learning the payment gateways, now obviously, pay lease, there's all these, but again, not knowing what you don't know, it's a Google search, it's listening to these type of podcasts, different operators, what are they using, what are they doing, and then figuring it out, right? It's not like, oh, you just call a pay lease and they just do it for you, right? It's like we're in there putting the spreadsheets, getting all the unique ID numbers in, sending this out, translating it in different languages so that the resident can. So even just those things that some people wouldn't even think about, that was a turn in itself, just getting an accurate rent roll logged into some sort of system, because it was just chicken scratch on a notebook, so those type of things before we even get into the refill or the infill, were just little challenges, again, because it was the first one learning how to even onboard into a rent manager pay lease. Then the big lift came in, and Tyler, you can hop in, that it was a 68 community, but I know Tyler was on the ground, bringing in these homes with the contracts. So Tyler, if you want to elaborate on the home actually fill.
Yeah, so it was basically a 68 unit portfolio. It was about 70% occupied when we bought it. Okay. And we had a two-pronged strategy. So, and for your listeners out there, this could be helpful for them as well. We brought in some used homes initially, and how we sourced those used homes was we went to all the dealerships out there and we said, hey, when you have a trade-in come in, we want the home that the new owner is trading in as value. We want that shipped directly to our park. Okay. And the interesting thing is, and what a lot of dealers probably won't tell you or admit to you, is to get homes sold to less qualified residents, they'll beef up the NADA price of a trade-in. Okay. So they'll say this home's probably worth like $1,000, right? Yeah. But they'll say it's worth $10,000.
Yeah. So it's less of a purchase. They get approved for that.
Right. So then that resident can then get approved. That $10,000 goes towards the down payment. Okay. And then what happens is that person gets approved, that new home gets shipped on. The sales guy, he gets paid, right? So he loves that, right? So he's like, all right, perfect, I'm done. And then we get that home because the dealership realizes it's valueless, right? They're just trying to sell a home, right? And they'll let the financing company take it on the back end. And then that home, we'll say, we'll buy that home for $1,500, gets delivered directly to our park. All we have to have is a toter crew come in and block, level, and acre it. So we save on the delivery cost, and all we have to do is come in and just set the home up. So we actually did that for our first, we filled up the smaller park, the 21 spacer. So we filled in 5 homes there with that strategy. And just for your listeners out there as well, we made money. We did a cash sale. So we probably were all in on each one of those homes about 10 grand. And we sold all of those homes for $4,000 a piece. Yeah. So we lost about $30,000 on all those. However, 4 years later, none of those homes have left. We've done no repairs and maintenance on those homes. We didn't we didn't do skirting steps, utility hookups on any of those homes. The guy who bought it from us did. And so we've got it. We lost 30 grand, but we probably added $30,000 in value by filling $30,000 per home that we filled in. And then as well, we've hadn't even had to do any upkeep on that property because it's 100% tenant-owned homes. Yeah. So I just say to your listeners, if you have the cash flow or if you have the cash in your bank account, lose money on houses. Just get them out the door. Yeah. So the other strategy we used on the bigger property is we brought in 12 cash program homes from the 21st Mortgage Cash Program. It's a chattel lender for your listeners who don't know. So we brought in 12 of those homes, and then we infilled another 3 using that trade-in system. And the reason we started using the cash program really is because we had to have a return of capital, basically. Yeah. We were burning through too much of our cash, and people were upset. So we brought in the cash program homes. Our cost of capital, right, was a little bit less to actually bring those homes in, and they generated a little more yield. But the mortgages on those, again, just for your listeners out there, are painful when they go vacant. I mean, they're $400 or $500 a month every month plus the insurance. So I would just warn against that. You just got to realize that. And what was that?
Sorry, I think I cut out for a second. Yeah, keep going.
Oh,
my bad.
I was just gonna say, yeah. Oh, you're good. You're good. I was just going to say that, for your listeners out there that, they're going to think about using the cash program, just realize when one of those homes goes vacant, you're going to be spending, $550 on each one of those homes. So if you're not renting those things for $1,000 a month, right? Because if you think about that, if you're only renting them for $800 a month, right, your lot rent's going to be more than what the home, than what the spread is between what you're renting for and what the mortgage is. So just be wary of that as you get into markets that are a little bit weaker. Little Rock, it doesn't have exactly the strongest demographics as far as income earners. So, anyways, that's what we did. And bringing in homes on pads, and I've said this a trillion times on a bunch of different podcasts as well as on LinkedIn. Bringing in homes, any broker that says you got to bring in 10 homes and then it'll be a 9 cap, is smoke and crack.
Stop. Yeah, it's not easy to do that. Yeah. Any type of home infill, I feel like, is overvalued a lot by bro. I mean, I'm guilty of this too. I'm like, oh, you could just fill 7 or 8 homes in a year, and it's like, let's be real, that's not happening. But and it's tough too. Yeah, because that's a good gig you had going with the dealer and that, because that's super cheap to get home infill because you're not paying like a lot of pad prep, transportation costs, obviously the cost of the house. So I mean, that's a plus. Are you guys still doing that today? Because I know it's tougher to work with dealers now because, I mean, way less homes out there. There's way more demand for it. Is that still a strategy you use today or not so much?
We haven't used that strategy in a long time. We found the cash program homes as we've gotten more in depth in this business, we've actually gotten a little, our capital's gotten cheaper. And we've gotten the ability to wait a little bit longer on return of capital. And appraisers, they love those new homes. And the problem with the used homes is, you get them all rehabbed, right? So like on those trade-in homes, you'd have to tear the home down all the way to the trusses, rebuild the subfloors, put new LVT on top, cabinets would be screwed, the whole kitchen would basically have to be redone, blah, 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 blah. So you go through, you put 20 grand into the house, and then you find out you turn the electrical on, and then you have to, there would be, the fuses in the house would be blown all the time. So you got to rip out the walls now and then repaint the thing. And so the new homes are just better because guess what? You get to set it, forget it. The electrical works, the heating and air works, everything works. You don't have to worry about plumbing or water or anything like that. So the ongoing maintenance issues from a scale standpoint is better, and also from just an ongoing headache standpoint. I mean, it's just it makes more sense to do that. Again, if you have to go return those big levered returns, right? Because you're working with a fund or whatever, the used homes is probably the way you have to go. But man, you're gonna be putting up a lot of shit, man. I mean, it's a lot.
So from buying here's a question I had, and I get confused myself from this because right now I'm just on the brokerage side. I have a few deals that I rolled in fees as LPs, but I got nothing to do with operations, nothing to do with real management. And like when I'm looking at, all right, if I'm going to try and raise money and buy deals, or anyone that's listening, they're looking to either raise money for their first deal or something like that. How are you offering preferred returns like right off the bat in year one when you know you have capex going to the deal? Like, are you just over raising, aka having more money in reserves so you can still cover that, or are you taking into account, hey, we need X amount of, like, I don't know, if it's going to cost, like, let's say you had to redo roads at a community year one and it's going to be 75 to 100 grand, and you got to do home infill, and of course there's always going to be other BS along the way that you're going to have to fix. Like, how are you still paying back your investors a high pref while also getting the capex done in the beginning stages of a deal?
Yeah, I mean that first deal, when we said we were doing this while paying out a 9.3, that's not typical, at least for us, right? So to answer the question short is we'll have the conversation up front is, hey, if we're offering a 10% now preferred return and we know it's an aggressive infill or project, that's going to accrue, right? So we'll say, hey, 15, we had a deal we closed last year, 50 units. We said, hey, this might be a 15-month deferred. That deal was an 8%, but that's going to accrue, and now it'll actually get paid out by this summer. So before a year, it won't hit that 12 or 15 months. So we never overpromise and underdeliver. So if we even feel, hey, this might be 6 months, we might say, hey, this first year just expect the payments to be deferred. It will accrue, and those will get paid out. But we've had some great deals that turned out, hey, 10 to 12%. We're thinking cash on cash by end of 12 months, and then by month 7, one of our best deals turning out like a 22.5%, right? And we started paying that out way earlier. So the short answer to your question is, we aren't the guy. I've heard operators, I didn't know that was really a thing. I heard some guys say they over raise and then pay that out. We've never done that, never will. Just I didn't even know that was legal. Like I've heard that.
I don't. Yeah, it was a so before I had you guys on, I had a couple like newer syndicators that were asking me. So I had a specific question for a few people for that. So thank you guys for that answer. All right, going forward now, when you guys are evaluating deals, and I think this would also be important for other operators, buyers, and investors that are just curious, like how do you run the numbers on deals? Obviously, you guys do value add type properties, where there's a lot of, because you guys have operations experience, you know how to turn parks around, you know how to infill homes, you know how to rehab homes. When you're underwriting for a park, what's your main metric that you're looking at? Are you more cash on cash by a certain point in time driven, like, hey, we think we can get to X amount cash on cash by year 2 or year 3, so we know the deal makes sense? Or are you looking at it on like because you guys were talking about earlier, a long-term trajectory? Are you looking at like a 10-year IRR, which I always know is all over the place because it's hard to say what your exit cap rate or refi cap rate is going to be down the road. So like, what's kind of the main metric you guys look at when you're evaluating a park and saying, hey, this is a good deal at this price, we're willing to pay this? And I know it's a loaded question that you could probably go on for hours about that, but what's kind of just the general things you're looking at?
So Jason, you want me to take that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. I can hop in.
So the general metrics that we're looking at is definitely cash on cash. Again, we're not really IRR guys. And the reason we're not IRR guys, and again, I'm not trying to turn off for any funds or anybody that loves IRR. It just, the back end is what's going to make an IRR. And I mean, and again,
we saw what happened 2 years ago at the interest rates. Like, good luck.
Well, every economist on the planet said we're going to have 3 to 5 rate decreases this year. Well, look what happened with CPI 2 weeks ago. Yeah. CPI cranked up. Now you're seeing Powell pulling back on that, right? Yeah. So we don't know where interest rates are going to go. So again, day one cash flow and the cash flow that we're going to continue to ramp up through rental increases and infilling units is what you can count on. And so that cash on cash return is really what we look at over the life of the deal. And then as well, and again, I've had some disagreements with some larger funds who've kind of looked at some deals with us, but I like calculating that back end exit based upon what the debt service coverage ratio is. And I shouldn't say Jason and I like doing that. And the reason we can look at that, and I think that's a solid metric, is because we don't want to sell assets. So what we're saying is, look, if most of the banks out there need a 1.25 debt cover, right? And we're targeting, we'll say we're going to be really conservative and say we're going to exit at an 8% interest rate, right?
Yeah.
25-year AM, 5-year term. And we'll say it's a 70 LTV. Okay, so I'm going to say the new bank debt's X, right? At 8%, right? Can the year 5 cash flow, because that's when most people want to exit, right? 3 to 5 years. The year 5 cash flow, what is that DSCR? Does it cover a 125 debt cover? Right? Because I think that's a better overall metric to look at as you exit the deal versus an IRR, right? So cash on cash with the life of the deal, and then kind of what does a DSCR even work at 125? If it doesn't, right, then we really got to look at, hey, look, is our rent rent increases? Is it too conservative, or is the deal just overpriced and we got to go in for a retrade? So that's kind of, I think, the two real key metrics we look at. Jason, did I miss anything there?
No, you nailed it. Yeah, cash on cash, right? Because that is one thing. We can't say we can control that, but we know, just in Little Rock, for example, we control that market as the largest private owner, right, in that market. So we know within the first 90 days, we know where we're taking that rent. So we don't even care day one cap rate, because that's going to change. And as long as we're getting to that 12 to 14% cash on cash in that 36 months, we can see that. We know how we run across 38 to 42% expenses across our portfolio. So we have a good picture early on in those first few years. And I mean, it's just too subjective. Where's the interest rates at, right? What are the cap rate valuations? And we have those in our packages, of course, but to try to sell a deal on that, and again, the refi, that's our business plan. So we're able to get phenomenal returns without having to exit to try to hit these big multiples. But cash on cash. I mean, that's
Now, question on, again, it's kind of operations based, but partially with scaling and what that kind of looks like. So how do you guys maintain control of like how your operations is looking when you go from, let's just say, one deal and you're more personally involved? Like, let's say in this case, I think Tyler, you mentioned you were like actually there for management and everything, to eventually scaling to, it looks like in 2021, I mean, you guys bought like 8, 9 different parks. Like, how does it look transitioning from, all right, we're focused on turning around one park, to now it's like, hey, we got to put in managers at multiple different parks. How do we oversee the managers and ensure like our infill plans and rehab plans are going according to plan? Now, I know a lot of these are like a portfolio, so I'm sure you got like a regional. Are you guys at the point we have a regional manager who oversees the individual managers at each park? And I'm sure some of these parks, they're right next to each other, as I could see in your thing. So you probably have some managers that are sharing roles. But how does that kind of look? And did you guys have experience or any knowledge or help to do that? Or was it really like, we just got to figure this out and make it happen?
Yeah. Jason, you mind if I take that one?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll hop in. Yeah.
So really, and how it's even working to today, just full disclosure to everybody that's out there, is that we bought in a concentrated metro, right? And we basically gobbled up a lot of these smaller parks, 22 spaces, 18 spaces, 40 spaces, et cetera. So, you can basically drive to our Little Rock portfolio, something like 350 units, within 15 minutes. And so what you have there is an 18 space property is basically never going to be able to pay somebody a living wage, or nobody you really want on site, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to know how to run a printer or scan a document, or have basic people skills.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we said, okay, look, we're going to pay somebody like a district manager or regional manager to go in and oversee the entire Little Rock portfolio, right?
Yep.
And then we've never found a district manager, even if we're paying right now $65,000 a year for a district manager job. We haven't found anybody that's competent enough to really go in and take over those rehabs and infills.
Yeah.
Even at that pay level, it's been a little scant, a little less quality than we would have thought. So I still come into the properties once or twice a week, especially on heavy infill projects, and I'm driving those projects.
Okay.
Because contractors rob you blind. So we I still take on that piece, and that's still a big piece of my value add to the company, is that I still go in and drive contractors. I make sure things are getting done. I make sure homes are put in the right way, especially when homes are coming in. We've had, I can't tell you. I could probably go on an hour about just home infills. But it's very particular and very nuanced on how homes need to go in, especially with spacing and trying to get homes on old pads and dirt, building new pads and where the sewer hookups are, yada, yada, yada. So, so that's how we structured that. Our other assets, kind of up in the Northwest and Northeast, we've had to pay managers that not very much money because they're not large assets or they've got a lot of vacancy. And those assets, we babysit a lot, and we've had to hire VAs to kind of help them answer the phone calls and lease up units and et cetera, because the managers, they won't do anything. I mean, nobody's going to do anything for $1,000 a month, $800 a month. I mean, they're just not. I mean, they barely, like I said, they barely know how to run a computer. So that's kind of where we're at. Jason, what did I miss, man?
No, I mean, and I think your question too on just being able to manage one or two, right? And then that 1 year, I mean, we
you guys weren't playing around in 2021.
No, we did well that year, but that was, I'm not saying we're both control freaks, but we definitely, I mean, we want to have a handle on everything. So that year, really, that was where things, and I've heard other operators, we didn't have any hand holding, unfortunately. I mean, maybe that was just my fault, not making other contacts to really ask, but we've tried to follow the leaders, right? But at that point, it was a little out of control because you just can't have your hands on everything, right? We had some lease things and we're like, oh, this person moved in. Oh, did we make sure we backtracked them? But after, when you get to 1,000, you're not going to be able to check in on every single box, right? So it did feel like we were getting a little out of control, and getting the quality DM now is a huge piece. And like Tyler said, I mean, his value out on the ground, I mean, that's tough to just source out. So, but putting all the systems in and getting in better systems and policies and procedures, that's a huge piece. So
go ahead.
No, sorry, Juan, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say too, for anybody out there that's scaling, and if you've got, if somebody says, hey, I want to, again, I'm not saying we're the model citizens, so I'm just using this as kind of more tongue in cheek. But if you say, hey, Tyler and Jason, I really want to get to where they're at, I want to get to 700 units or whatever. If you've got a long weekend and, you're not out with your buddies, you're not with your girlfriend or with your family or whatever, and you're bored on a Saturday and you realize you've got, you're scaling up to 150 units, you'll say, you got 50 and you're going to 150, right? Take that weekend, record yourself saying for a future district manager or a future bookkeeper or a future employee of any kind, and start recording yourself for standard operating procedures, SOPs for your company, because that is something that we've talked with a number of different operators. I think Derek Vickers, we had a pretty frank conversation with him the last time we were in Florida. And, he basically said everything's starting to fall apart about around 1,000. We're finding the same thing. We're building SOPs now, right, where we should have been building them along the way. Yeah. And I'm telling you that is what makes and breaks a business. E-Myth, it says, people and systems. E-Myth is a book, and it's true. I mean, it's like, if you want to scale it all, you better have everything written down to a T. Hey, you put your left foot in front of your right foot, you turn the doorknob, you open the door, you go inside, you put in an air freshener for a vacant unit, whatever it is. So
make it extremely systemized so anyone can kind of plug and play.
Exactly.
Okay. And then what size do you think it's like worth again, like kind of a regional or district manager? Or I guess it'd be dependent on how many different parks and how spread apart they are and like the close vicinity, right? But like when did you see a huge shift yourselves when it's like, and maybe we're at 150 units, all right, smooth flying, but then next thing you know, you're at like 350. It's like, all right, things are getting a little out of control. And I know you said 1,000 is like, okay, you should have had a lot of systems in place, so you're realizing that's a really good breaking point or big breaking point that you and Derek kind of got along with. But like, at what point do you think like, hey, start getting these systems in place? Is it like when you're in like that 150 mark, you're starting to acquire more parks, or?
Yeah, well, that 5-park portfolio right in Little Rock, that had a manager, which she wasn't a DM role, right? We ended up hiring her to bring in someone else because she was at the ceiling, right? And I mean, she was still making 60,000 in Southwest Little Rock's probably like 80 to 100 almost. So we were at the point the property management was a break even, if maybe even in the red for us, right? We vertically integrated that, and that wasn't a profit center, So we got a 24/7 hour call service in Mexico City, Philippine VAs, and we're putting those pieces, but we might have not realized it having that one manager managing at that time, maybe it was 400 units and 250 of them were in Little Rock, right? So it wasn't as, um, it was a little more manageable. But yeah, I mean, now that we're at a scale, we'll see. Yeah, it should have been started, like Tyler said, before even our first deal, but nobody's thinking that, right? Because we were for 2 years not even in a deal. So the last thing on my mind was, I'm going to build out policy procedures. So that was a good really though, because now that we think, it's like, dang, all that time, could have, as we were learning this, trained somebody, but it was just part of it. But
cool. So now shifting, I know you guys are. Have you guys expanded outside of Arkansas? Or are you still mainly owned in Arkansas and you're looking to expand out to other states?
Yeah, we're actively looking to expand out to other states, but only in Arkansas right now. I exited the mobile home park in Titusville just recently, and we're only in Arkansas. We're looking at a deal right now in Oklahoma. We're looking at another deal in North Dakota. There's another kind of interesting deal in Mississippi, but frankly, we've got 2 deals under contract. Well, 3 deals under contract. 2 that we think are going to come to fruition right now, and we're really focused on getting those done because one of the units. Basically it's 280 units, and we're looking at like a 1.85 equity multiple on that. And we're paying out a 10 pref on all that, and we're targeting some pretty serious returns. And we've got both those deals under contract at roughly 30 a pad, which is pretty good, especially with some owner carry and some other stuff in there. So we're really focused on those deals, and those are inside the state of Arkansas. One's in Conway and one's in Jonesboro. So we're excited about those deals, but again, when we get some more, bandwidth and some more employees that can take off some of those operational duties, we'll definitely be looking outside of the state. That's for sure.
Yeah, and when you guys are evaluating markets, I guess those are still within Arkansas, but they're large enough. They support their own full-time manager, like you're mentioning, 280 units. That's more than big enough to have actual staff there.
For sure.
When you guys are looking at out-of-state markets, because you know the Arkansas market really well at this point, but you're looking at a different state. Is it more metro stats, or are you guys looking at median home values? Like, what's kind of the main market indicator you guys like to look for, or is it like the disparity of median home value to median income? Like, what's kind of the target?
Yeah, Jason? I think all those two, and just a quick one for us right now. I know that's a horrible answer, but
but I know I pretty much named the things that you'd look at too.
No, so well, that's it. But I'll touch on that because we in Arkansas we feel super comfortable now, right? So there was a deal in Green Forest. 800 people live there. There are some large, Tyson. There's some larger employers, but a lot of people would have passed on that. Because you're like, what? Nothing's there. It looks like a rural market, and that's our top performer. That's our largest asset, 222 sites. But right now, obviously population, medium home income, but even just the sites, we see now that it doesn't even make sense to break into a new market unless it's over 50, arguably 100, right? Just for operational efficiencies. But we want to grow out, but we have also we're buying deals from other operators that. They're maybe even overseas, and they're spread so thin across the U.S. They're just they can't do good on one deal, and just one deal in one market, one in another state. So, we're going to grow, but calculated and make sure the unit counts there.
Yeah. And so, how are you guys finding? What's your main deal sourcing strategies? Do you have your own acquisitions team that's going out and hunting? Do you guys have a team of VAs, or do you have 2 or 3 brokers that have just been tight with you guys and getting most stuff done? Or are you guys just doing it on your own? Because I know that Jason, you have a lot of experience with it, or both you guys have experience with cold calling and how to find deals.
Yeah. And Tyler, hop in here too. But we do leverage brokers for sure. Cause I know everybody says, direct off market is obviously that's always the best, right? But brokers can get you those off markets, right? So yes, I have a broker background. I know how to pick up the phone and hit him direct. I actually hooked a meeting a lot of times for Tyler, right? That's where it's a tag team effort where he's on the ground there. But no, we've had some pit bull brokers and like yourself, Armin. That just, even if we give them the lead, you need to have sometimes that buffer in between you, right? And just even that deal it was in a trust, that 122. We found that deal. We basically handed that off to a local broker contact who's an absolute animal, and he just hammered, and even another deal we had. And so we're doing it kind of on all ends. We did have an acquisition team at a certain point. It kind of flamed out just because it's like, well, training them to, it's, and I don't want to sound like making excuses here, but we did have that, and that'll probably get ramped back up at another point. But our deal flow now is so heavy with now inbound because of the 3-4 years that we've just been hammering into a market. We're getting deals now, and guys are seeing us close. Where as a broker, obviously, and sellers, they want the one thing and only thing they care and want is certainty of closing, right? So when they see, damn, these guys took down almost 1,000 units, 16 communities in the last 36 months, like they're probably
that's a good sign.
Yeah. So again, not the best answer, a combination of all of it, but yeah, absolutely leveraging the brokers even off market. You guys stir up off market deals, and hey, if we're closing deals before you have to go through your whole marketing campaign and bid it up, just come to us and we'll close. We're not retraders.
Yeah.
So
now I'll shift a little bit from the boring numbers talk. So MHCI Group, I noticed you guys have a little more branding push these days. Like you have a good like investor facing kind of brochure thing that you guys sent me. By the way, you guys put together a really good thing because unlike most syndicators, you guys have actual real life examples of like return of capital. Here's actual returns, not just like, oh, we acquired these units, but our operations is a shit show disaster like some syndicators out there. So you guys have a good pitch deck. But I noticed like you're doing the webinars now as far as like explaining through a deal. And is the goal trying to kind of get your brand out there and look at more raising retail money from retail, like the retail type investors that'll maybe find you on LinkedIn and watch the webinar? Or are you guys just trying to kind of establish more of a brand name with the MHCI Group and that kind of thing? Because I'm sure at first it was like, let's just, we got our few guys that are willing to throw money in a deal. Let's make sure we buy one good, do a good first job for our capital partners. But now it seems like the focus, like you said, we're trying to get the 10,000 units over the next 4 or 5 years. So are you looking at trying to shift to more like branding focus, more of a name brand within the space and doing webinars to raise money that way? Or what's the goal with kind of getting your names out there?
Yeah. And Jason, you jump in here. I'm sure I'm going to miss something. But yeah, it's really, I mean, our goal, and I always joke with Jason about this, is that, if we can get in front of all 300 million Americans out there, or 350 million Americans out there, however many people we have in this country, I said we'd raise every single deal in about 10 seconds. Because we pay exceptional returns. The question is, as Alex Hormozy says, can you get your message of the stuff that you're selling out to the people that want to buy your stuff? And so that's really what we're going for right now. And because what we found is the institutional players, they want too much control and they want too big of returns.
Yeah.
And so, and again, we love our institutional investors. I just want to say, anybody that's listening to this, that's partnered with us, we love you guys.
Yeah.
However, the retail guys out there, they like, we're having a call today at 4:30 with a guy. He understands that on the bigger deal that we're under contract on, the 196 units, right? It's a 24-month wait time before you're going to get your first distribution, your first preferred return payment. And the reason for that is because it's a heavy lift. There's water line issues. You need paving. There's, a couple times I've driven through there, a prostitute has jumped out in front of me and, wanted to service me. And I took a pass on that, But,
the operations isn't that bad.
Yeah. And so those guys are like, hey, look, I just want to get in a deal. I'm interested in the back end appreciation. I've got a job right now. Where the institutional guys want to screw you down on every single lever. And if you miss one of those metrics, right, you're going to give up whatever portion of equity that you have. And so, yes, we want to go out and raise retail capital, and we're also trying to build a brand name. When you think of, like, we want to think, or for my LinkedIn audience and my Facebook audience, when they think of Tyler Lekas, I want the MHCI Group logo to pop up in their mind as something that's affiliated with me. And then also to say Tyler is a leader in the mobile home park space. Anytime mobile home parks come up, I want them immediately saying, "Oh, I know a guy, Tyler. He's on my LinkedIn, and every time I see him, oh yeah, Billy Bob, you're looking to throw some money into mobile home parks. You should really talk to this guy. That's what we want. So we want brand awareness, and we want to raise money from retail investors because I think we have a good enough track record now, and I do think that we get for what we're paying out, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but a lot of syndicators these days are taking away prefs. They're flipping their, we do a 70-30, so 70-30 split. So 70% goes to the LPs, 30% goes to us. When they get all their capital back, the pref goes away, but the 70 and 30 stays. Yeah. Right? We're not changing that up, but a lot of guys are flipping that. They're saying, now with all your capital back, we as the general partners get 70 and you get 30. So, and so guys are, I don't know if they're getting greedy or if they got big overhead or what, but, we think we pay outsized returns. We've got the best deals in the space right now. And so we want to create brand awareness, and we think we can, deliver outsized returns. So Jason, did I miss anything there?
No, you nailed it. Yeah. The institutions, we love them, but yeah, they control it's not aligned with the buy and hold, right? It's just, we got operational control, great, but if they call us tomorrow, say sell, and we have to sell, it's just that's not a great feeling, right? And they got us by the kahuna. So yeah, that's exactly nailed it.
So what's the ultimate bigger picture goal? You guys get the 10,000 units, X amount of time. You have great operations. Do you eventually sell the whole portfolio right off into the sunset and you're big ballers? I mean, I'm sure you guys are doing it right now, but either that or you guys thinking like generational wealth. Like what's kind of the bigger picture? Because obviously you get your name brand out there, you guys could scale up, raise more money for bigger deals, get operations place. I don't know, like turn into like the Cardone capital of mobile home parks or some big name known in the space. Like what's the big grand picture? You guys eventually want to get out of it, move to a different asset class? Like why do all this work in the mobile home park space besides obviously make money, make your investors money?
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that because Cardone Capital, I know his goal at one point was $1 billion. Now he's trying to get to 10. And Tyler, I come out the other day was, we're deal junkies, so like hate the property management side, but it's the lifeblood of the business, right?
Yeah.
But me going is putting together the deal. So, I mean, we talked to some guys, 80 some years old, and they're hard negotiators, right? And they're still on the phones with us, like just we're going head to head. And we joke like that's going to be us. Like we get to 10,000, it's not like we just coast off, kick our feet up. I mean, just the deals. We love putting deals together, and I don't see that stopping. And at that a certain point, it's not about the money, clearly, right? It's and again, this isn't a charity event, but we do want to preserve affordable housing. Everybody, you hear the housing crisis and affordable housing crisis, but then they'll bulldoze these parks and put up.
It's crazy how it's crazy how governments and municipalities like we need more affordable housing. Will you present them a plan and they say no, we're not going to let you infill those vacant lots? And
they bulldoze it, kick them on the street, and then they put this A-class apartment for $2,100 for one bedroom. And that's why. So I mean, part of it's that, but no, we're behind food, water, and shelter, right? So it's something that's just clearly never going away. But the deals, I don't see an end to it. Something I love, and that's it. But Tyler, you got a different take on it?
I was just going to comment on that and say, hey, it's the same purple-haired nose ring, with the bowl ring right here, and the steel-toe boots who's got their pronouns on their name tag are screaming with their protest sign that they can't pay their rent, and then they're the same people that say they hate living next to a mobile home park. It's like, hey, pick a lane, pick a lane. What Zzer, Zazem, whatever it is.
The anti-landlord types.
It's just like you gotta have you can't have it both ways here. You gotta have affordable housing. It may not look as sexy as you want, or you have the A-class apartments, and you got to pay more for your rent. So I was just gonna say, in summary, basically the joke is, or the sick joke is that Jason and I are kind of built the same way. And I look at buying mobile home parks as the same sort of macro philosophy as the gym, right? When you got to 135, when you started benching 135, guess what you wanted to do? Go to 225.
Yeah.
When you got to 225, guess where you want to go to? You want to bench 315. When you get to 315, then you want to go to 355 or 365 or 405, right? So, and mobile home parks are going to be the same way. When we get to 10,000, then we're going to be like, well, What about 10,500?
Yeah.
What about 11,000? What about 11,000? And so that's it. Jason said it best. We're both deal junkies, and we love putting money and deals together and kind of analyzing the deal and like getting into the nitty gritty. The management side is kind of the bane of our existence, but again, it's a necessary evil. So that's probably where we'll be at. But again, we look at these things as legacy wealth creators for our investors as well as our families. So we want to hold on to these things for 30 years. Now, granted, if Blackstone comes along or BlackRock comes along and says we'll give you a 5 cap on 10,000 pads, we'll give you a $600 million check or $700 million
time to
check.
write off. Yeah, it might be time to write off to the sunset, baby.
Yeah, here you go. And Armand, you could broker the deal for us.
There you go. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. So it's that's the sick joke. It's like we say 10,000, but it's never gonna stop. So
yeah. Well, all right. Last few questions, maybe 10 minutes tops. One question I wanted to ask, and I feel like not a lot of people ask this enough, especially on real estate podcasts, is so much talk gets into operations, deal structures, how much money they raise, how many units they buy. I mean, this question, I guess, wouldn't apply much to you guys because you guys have had successful refis, return capital, and are actually getting like your good returns now yourselves on these deals you raise money for. But when you guys were first starting, or like advice for newer syndicators, like what are some ways that you can keep the lights on and not have to be so fucking broke until your first successful exit? And I know some syndicators will just kill people on fees, AC fees. I know some shady stuff that happens in the business where it's like they'll charge an additional fees for some shit that like there's one deal that I actually brokered, and it was funny that I saw the capital raise pitch that they had out there. So they, in their capital raise thing and all the fees for like their acquisition fee breakdown, they had a third party deal sourcing fee, which was our fee, like the brokerage fee. But then there was another brokerage fee that the GP took, and it was like $200K on top of us only getting paid like $120. And I was like, all right, that's how you keep the lights on.
Yeah.
So like, how would you say most syndicators need to kind of keep the lights on, or do you guys get paid a salary from your fees that you're paid, or how does that usually work?
No, that's a really good question, because,
and that's what no one wants to talk about. Like I know that's the part.
But it needs to be talked about because one, we thought we were heroes not taking the fees up front. No acquisition fee. Again, the 5% property management fee. We don't take an asset management fee, right? And some people are like, "What?" But that hurt later on, you know. And again, having a brokerage, little bit of active income, but not the focus. So
and I know a lot of capital guys don't realize, like, all right, when you take some fees on the front end, like you had $50K in EMD, $20K you spent on due diligence. And you might have done that on like 2 different properties before one actually hit the closing table. So like you're losing that money. You're losing a lot of the money. So I know a lot of people don't realize like the fees aren't profitable for most people. It's really just to fucking survive.
Yeah, survival. And the first, I mean, however many maybe it was like even the first 8 or 10, like we're not taking a fee. And then we're like, damn, these are 3-5-year projects. We're not grabbing. No, we're not taking a salary. We don't grab cash. We're not taking a salary. Either one of us haven't. And we did start putting in a 2% acquisition fee right over. I think we got a $25 million. It's going to be 1%, right? So we're not. But
you guys are established now. You've already proven you could get returns for investors. So that's
exactly.
Obviously,
and that's where we said now. Not only that, we actually had a guy up in Manhattan. He looked at our deck. He said, "I will not invest with you because you are not taking an asset management fee, and you're not. If this project goes sideways, you're not in. Your interest isn't there. You'll go away." And I'm like, whoa, that was a big investor. And then my argument to that, I mean, first I was like, okay, well, this makes sense of fees. But I was thinking, well, we're personally guaranteeing these. So we are because the dominoes will fall quick. We're not letting these things go, whether we're eating ramen and, whatever we got to do. But the fees, I would say there is a point it comes off. Maybe there is too many fees that are associated, but I mean, an acquisition fee, even if, we put a point on even a debt placement fee, and that's it. I mean, 2 points and then 1. So 3 total, but we're taking multiple hours, sometimes a day, negotiating with banks. Even if it's an owner finance, we're structuring these loans so the fees absolutely have to be put in for, especially a sponsor. But it is tough. I get when you're new, you're thinking, well, I want to get this done and I don't want to fee them. But it's just these projects, you're not grabbing cash for a while. Yeah. So I think that, Ty, any more on that? I mean,
that was great. No, great answer. Yeah, no. So, all right, shifting now, personal questions, maybe last 5 minutes. Tyler, I'll go to you first. So what do you like to do for fun? I hear you have a boxing background. So like what else? What do you do for fun? Jason, I'll get you next. Tyler, I'll let you go first. How do you like to live? Do you like to ball out? Are you a frugal guy? What do you like to do with the riches of the mobile home park industry?
Yeah, I mean, I like to go out and tie one on every once in a while, with the boys. I can't say I don't like to do that. I like to eat some good food every once in a while too. Nice. Kind of my main staple, as I've gotten, I'm 32, so it's not like I'm super old, but it's kind of the main things I like to do these days though is I do some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So nice. I spend a lot of my time doing that. And I've always been kind of combat sports oriented. Yeah. So I like that. And I like going out. I've got a good business group here that I go out with in Little Rock. It's a pretty small town. Cool. And so, we go out and probably, drink a little bit too much, eat a little bit too much, usually once a week, once every 2 weeks. And I love doing that.
How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu?
What was that?
How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu?
3 years.
Cool. What's the gym out in Little Rock? Yeah, dude, I've been I got my purple belt 4 years ago.
Wow.
I've been training 10 years, bro. I have 3 AMI fights, probably over 100 jiu-jitsu matches between Nagas, new breeds, some fight to win pro.
Damn. Okay.
Pro, yeah. So I've been in combat sports for a while. That's why I was curious, but
yeah. I fought Golden Gloves. So I had 5 amateur fights. And Golden Gloves. I had my book up in Portland, so I fought in Washington and Oregon. And then I've only had 2 jiu-jitsu competitions.
Nice. You're competing, man. Hell yeah, you're in the.
Yeah, but I'm a blue belt, and and I always fight those fat guys because I'm super heavy, so I'm 250. But it's definitely jiu-jitsu, man. It's a game of chess. And it's fun, man. I'd love to pick your brain. I mean, I know we're on the podcast right now.
Dude, if you ever come to Orlando, anywhere from Tampa, Florida, all the way up to Daytona along the I-4, all the MMA gyms here, we all everyone knows everyone. I've been in the scene for a hot minute. So if you're ever in Florida, man, let me know. We'll go swing by some gyms. I train with Mike Perry and a few other.
Oh, really?
Stuff. Yeah.
Mike Perry's a psycho. Yeah,
before he was ever into UFC, there's this local fight. Anyways, he's been crazy since he is who he is on
right.
That's not an act. He's a psycho in the best way possible. And then there's a few other big names out here Rodolfo Vieira's in the UFC.
Dude, he's a
fucking Alex Pereira comes by our gym if he's in Florida. He comes to our gym, Fusion XL over here. So
how big is that guy? How big is that? He guy looks huge.
Yeah, no, he's massive, but the craziest thing when you watch him spar and everything, right? Obviously he hits hard as fuck, but when he connects, so there's this other guy, Philip Rowe, that's in the gym too. He's number 16 welterweight in UFC, but when they have spars, you could see when Pereira lands, it's like everything's a little extra, and it's okay, there's something special with this guy. But
that's wild. Yeah, it's those guys. I mean, what Mike Perry has done in bare knuckle is crazy.
Bare knuckle. Yeah.
I mean, he just. I mean, that guy just. I mean, could you imagine getting a street fight with that guy? I mean, he'd knock you into the next dimension. So, but that's basically it. Eat, drink. But I mean, Jason and I have to say, I mean, I'm working at this thing. I always call it. I've got the day shift and the night shift.
Yeah.
And I work. I get up a little bit later. Jason likes getting up at 5. I usually get up around 7:30, 8, and I'm usually in the office by 8:30, something like that.
Yeah.
But I'll work till 6:30, then go to jiu-jitsu, and then come back, and I'll work 9 to 1.
Yeah. I'm on similar to you. I'm a later guy, but I'll work late night.
Yeah, I like that. I turn on at like 9, 10 o'clock. I really start. It's all quiet. It's dark.
Yeah.
You kind of just start focusing in. But we work. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, I think both of us are working 7 days a week, and Jason's got a daughter, so he's got to balance that a little bit. But it's like, we're kind of all in on this thing. So it's like I love to say I do a lot of like fun stuff, but going out and and again for your listeners, I'm talking tongue in cheek. I go out and chase some girls. I'm single, so I chase some girls around. I'll try and drag them back to my cave and drink some beer and go out with the boys sometimes, and that's pretty much it. That's kind of what I do. And we work our ass off every other minute of the day. So. Anyways, I'll let Jason.
Jason, let's get. What's the daily rundown? Are you still in the baseball scene, or what's your hobby?
I was gonna say I'm glad Tyler led because I'm the boring old man now. So after my baseball career, I even retired from drinking 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't drink.
Oh wow.
So I'm a pretty boring old man. I mean I take the girlfriend out on a 2-day little weekend. Sunny Isles, pop out to Clearwater. But I have a daughter that I spend a lot of time. She's got soccer, but I'm not soccer dad coaching and on softball teams. I mean, we're still, again, not having those policy procedures dialed in. It gives me anxiety. Like if I were to go somewhere, I mean, I used to, like 3 years ago, I couldn't even date. Like Tyler's like, oh man, this guy's not going to ever see what, because I couldn't sit at a dinner. And I'm like, I got this anxiety that's like this black hole of stuff to just do. Why am I out just gallivanting around the town? But no, I mean, we're getting through some of those times, but it's, it's just recovery mode, rest, just I'm not Tyler's up jamming on the emails till 2 a.m. I'm asleep, but I'll get up early and try to catch up. But
no, that around the clock anxiety that reminds me of like there's like that joke where it's like I quit my 9 to 5 so I have a 5 to 9 like entrepreneurship baby like
it's worth it though. It's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Dude, like any all right, so dude, this is a great podcast, by the way. I appreciate your guys' insight and being like actually open about talking like deal structures and getting really in depth and everything. Any closing things that you'd like to, if anyone's watching this, any deals you'd like to pitch or anything, where can someone find your info? Just closing thoughts before we hop off.
Our MHCIgroup.com, with that plugs everybody in. We usually throw our deals on there and they could get registered in the portal. And, some of them obviously are for accredited, but some are just, Tyler's put out some real good content just on the operation side, right? I can't tell you about the sewer and the Orangeburg and all that like Tyler does. So, the LinkedIn's pretty good content. But we're always on the, online. Ty?
Yeah, I would just say, just for all the startup syndicators, just kind of back to your previous question there, Armand. But to the syndicators out there that are looking to get started, I gotta say, get ready to eat shit, because that's you're gonna eat shit. You're gonna eat shit. You're not gonna make money for a long time. This is a slow game to get started in, and you better have either some reserves in the bank account, or you better be having some active income coming to the sides, and you better say to yourself, I'm not, for the first year of doing this, I'm not going to date, I'm not going to drink, I'm going to work, and that's it. Yeah. Again, unless you got the last name Gates, go have fun, go jump on the jet, go do your thing, Yeah. But just on that, anyways, going to where people can find us. You can email me at Tyler@MHCI Group. You can email Jason at MHCI Group. We got MHCIgroup.com. You can go find us on LinkedIn, Tyler Lekas or Jason Postill. And just to kind of plug our deals, like I said, we're raising for 280 spots. We're paying a 10% pref right now on that. We think that, that exit, we basically have that under contract right now for about $7.8 million. And both those deals, which is around 30,000 a pad, and we think the exit on those deals, or the refi on those, is going to be around 13-14 million here in 5 years. So we think some actual absolutely incredible returns and some legacy assets that your kids could still have here in 20 or 25 years. So if you guys are interested in those deals, we're raising capital for those right now, and feel free to check us out. And we've got a investor portal on Syndication Pro as well. So that's it.
Awesome. All right, guys. I appreciate you hopping on. Everyone, don't forget, like and subscribe. Armand Viola and all YouTube channels, Instagram, all the stuff. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Thanks.
me, Carmen.